You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Doctor, tell me true. What's a heart like mine supposed to do?
All right, we are back in the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So many of you may have a new niece or a new nephew or a new grandson or granddaughter coming into this world. And unlike when you had kids, if you had kids, when you examine or meet or greet or pick up for the first time somebody else's baby, it's a little different. And there's some things you kind of need to be aware of. So first, many of us are in high anticipation. So I just had some friends who had a baby, and, you know, knowing early on that they were pregnant, it has been many, many months of anticipation. You know, and I'm like, baby coming. Oh my God, baby coming. Baby coming, baby coming, baby coming. Can you the baby comes, you're like, Dee! Like, oh, I got this baby. Okay, and then you hear the baby born, and you're like, Dee! Okay, you're all excited. Okay, and then now you get to meet the baby. Right? Okay, baby's only hours old, few days old, right? Okay, so one, take a deep breath, okay? Because you cannot go up to the little baby and go, oh my God, it's a baby. Okay, too loud. No, babies, they're still getting used to the sound. Remember, they were in mom's womb, buffered by fluid, I mean, yes, sound waves travel through the amniotic fluid, but there is no way they can go from to day. Okay, can't they? No. Okay. Another thing, too, is things are still pretty bright. They're pretty bright. So don't have the baby in a super duper bright room. They're not ready for that. Make sure curtains are closed, shaded, you know, things like that. If you have long nails, if you don't wash your hands, if you regularly, don't be touching the baby. Okay, the baby's kind of young, so you want to be, be clean. If you have a cough or a cold, don't go near the newborn. Or wear a mask. Look at the newborn from afar. Because you don't want to get the baby sick. Now, babies may look funny. We've talked about that. I love my sons, but they were funny looking. Okay, so funny looking that I really start to question who the father was. And because honestly, one really looked like the UPS guy. But they're my husband's kids. But they're don't comment on that to the parents. So vaginal delivered babies will still have because of the softness of their skull, they'll have a little bit more of a cone head, misshapen, whereas your C-section babies come out very more round looking. And don't compare, don't say, don't touch the baby's head. Right? Don't try to put your finger on their lips. Don't kiss the baby's mouth. You are going to look at a baby. And with my kids, I would, but when they were babies, kiss them on the mouth. And kids, we stopped that. Everybody says, well, gosh, there's certain cultures where you always still kiss on the lips. I stopped that when they were older, but you maternally you do have that peck. Don't be kissing the baby. Do not be kissing the baby. No. I'm a physician, so when I see the newborn, I'm like, well, let me just examine them really quickly. Check, make sure there's no hip dysplasia, make sure the Babinski sign, check the gag reflex, look for the red reflex. So I want to do a quick exam, and just because that's just me, and I just want to make sure baby's okay, and the baby was perfect, just absolutely perfect, just gorgeous. Love this baby already. But there's also then the thing that happens next, that new grandparent or new aunt or uncle or whatever, is the possession, the possessiveness, and the stress. Now, you have a new couple that just had a baby. Okay? They're exhausted. They went through something very, very traumatic. The woman who gave birth went through something very traumatic. And then the daddy that had to watch all of this, worrying that baby and mom made it, pretty traumatizing. So the last thing you want to do is order them around, give them stuff to do. Now, okay, I'm a doctor, so I probably violated every rule. But don't forget this, do this. But that's what doctors' jobs are, or that's what doctors do. But, if you're the family member, don't say, okay, well, I'm going to come over and babysit tomorrow. No. If the baby's 5 days old or 6 days old, let parents decide. Okay, well, you need to do this. Don't forget to do that. Let me look at the car seat. Let me see. Just take a step back. Okay, just take a step back. All right. And the reason why people do that is because they feel like it takes a village. So they feel like they need to now take duties. And if you're anything like me, I will always be the first to volunteer so I don't get stuck with a duty I don't want. So I get that. People are like, okay, well, I'm going to be the one that'll do this. So then this person has to then do diaper duty. It always happens. And I taught my kids, you always volunteer first for the best job because you are going to get stuck with the job. But if you're already volunteered, they can't make you do diaper duty. But understand that there's plenty of time. Yeah, and the relationship is going to grow. And also realize that the baby is a baby. And I know everybody wants to bond and everybody feels like, especially with grandparents, you get this stress with grandparents that you're not going to be on this earth long enough and that you want to bond with that baby every second of the day. If you are too over encumbering, you're going to push yourself away. Okay? I mean, the family is going to want to be around you and the family is going to want you a part of that baby's life, but maybe not 90% of the baby's life in its first few hours. And so understand that space is very important. Now, somebody could say, well, Dr. Dahlia, you're being really optimistic that, young parents are going to really want other family members involved. Yeah. Okay. After X amount of sleepless nights, after no date nights, after not having time to yourself, yes, you will get phone called. You will. It's going to happen. But be patient. Don't get the baby sick. Don't realize that the baby, when you hold a baby, the head is very heavy, so you've got to support the neck. And when in doubt, just don't touch it and wait till the child's a little older. Okay? And don't try to feed the baby. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So making headlines is this Oregon teacher who lost his job having books in his office that embrace the boys are boys, girls are girls. These books, he is he, she is she, were in his office, and he ends up losing his job. And when it goes to the appeals court, it was divided, but they did not uphold his right to feel and have educative materials on boys are boys and girls are girls. And so the case has drawn a lot of kind of scrutiny, and it may actually go to the Supreme Court. And they say that his First Amendment right of having books in his office, not necessarily reading them to kids in a classroom setting, but books in his office for kids who could be confused and concerned, was not a part of his First Amendment rights. It was a 2-1 decision by the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. It upheld the firing of teacher Roderick E. Feist II from Oregon's Intermountain Education Service District, and they rejected his appeal. Feist is a licensed clinical social worker who served as an education specialist. He had books with binary gender themes in 2 school offices where he met with students. In his office at LeGrand Middle School, he had kept 2 books, he is he and she is she. That conveyed the message that gender is binary and cannot be changed. In his Elgin office, he had the book Johnny the Walrus. Now, Johnny the Walrus is, I guess, a book. I haven't read it, but it's where you have a boy named Johnny who has a big imagination. He likes to live make-believe, but he's forced to make a decision between the boy he is and the things he pretends to be. Now, some people think Johnny the Walrus is an anti-transgender book. I haven't read it, but it's a book that kids have imaginary friends. Kids like to think they're Superman. Kids will always have imaginations, and then it takes parents to kind of ground them and say, not ground them in terms of getting in trouble, but in terms of, look, this is, as much as you want to be a bird who could fly, you can't. You could get hurt. As much as you want to, this is who you are, and let's learn to love who you are. Like Lady Gaga, I was born this way. Be proud of who you are. That's why we have pride. We have, be proud of who you are. You don't need to pretend to be somebody else. And that is it. So people look at that book as very critically. But the Intermountain Education Service District serves Morrow, Umatilla, Union, Wallowa, Grant, Baker, and Malheur counties in eastern Oregon. Now, Oregon law prohibits discrimination in public education and requires education providers to adopt policies addressing what it deems bias incidents. So the district's Every Student Belongs policy defines a bias incident as a, quote, hostile expression of animus based on a protected characteristic, including gender identity. So these kids, and I really feel bad for a young child who is a biological male and says, no, I'm wrong. This is wrong. I'm in the wrong body. I feel bad for that kid, and that kid needs support. And, why do you feel like you need a vagina? Why do you feel like, well, I think like a girl, but how do girls think? I thought we got rid of that stereotype. Well, I like dolls. So I'm a girl. I hate dolls. Any boy who wants a doll, fine, by me. It doesn't mean you have to go through surgery. It doesn't mean you have to, lose your penis. It doesn't mean you have to go through painful and dangerous hormone transformations. You want to play with the doll, fine. You want to wear pink, wear pink. I have a very good friend of mine, heterosexual, and he likes wearing pink shirts. I thought we're beyond those stereotypes. If I'm a girl and I want to watch sports and I want to wear a jersey, but I still want to be a girl, a biological female, that's my choice. But anyway, the case said that because those books were there, that's a hostile expression of animus. So the district received a complaint about the books. During the investigation, the thief acknowledged displaying all 3 books while meeting with students, but he never intended to harm them, and the books weren't hostile. And he said he might put the books aside if a transgender student that he knew would be entering the office. Well, in November 2023, the district found that the display constituted a bias incident under its Every Student Belongs policy, ordered him to stop displaying the books in his offices. Meanwhile, every other educator could display a Black Lives Matter or an LGBTQ flag or a something else, Biden or Obama or something else that they felt, but what he was doing was considered hostile. And so he was told that if he didn't remove the books, he could face termination. So he sued in federal court. Now, the magistrate issued a partial injunction where the district could borrow the books when students were in his office, but not when the office was empty. So 2 days later, 4 eighth graders entered his office before school and asked to specifically see these books. He attempted to redirect them, and he says, but the students persisted. They really wanted to see the books. So he obliged, gave them the books. The injunction allowed him to display the books when he wasn't working with students, but he let them view the books because they asked for it. And then very suspiciously, a teacher was recording this, reading the books, and then filed a complaint. Did the teacher tell those students to go and ask to look at the books? So something was very, very odd with all of that. Then another investigation fired him. When he challenged the termination, they said that the prior injunction had not protected his display of books in the presence of students, whatever. So people are kind of looking at this going, okay, this is, where are we going here? What is happening in these schools? I personally think that schools should really be about the math, right? The science. I mean, we have kids very unproficient in their math and their reading scores. And it seems like there's so much energy being put on social issues. And now you have all these debates. Well, should we read religious passages in school? Should we, I think it's extremely important for us to learn our history, learn about Martin Luther King, learn about the horrific slavery conditions and what was done, to Americans that should have never been done. What was, lynchings and women not being able to vote and then we do need to learn history. But it seems like there's this, we need to talk about sex. We need to talk about that. We need to, be there for the transgender child. We need to, schools do take on a very psychological role with children because kids are, with teachers more than they are with their parents. But teachers' jobs are to identify something and then bring it up to the parents and then let the parents decide. If a young child thinks they're a cat, there's a very good chance they're not going to think that when they're 8 or 10. But what is happening is they're capitalizing on a young kid going, I think I'm a girl. Okay, then let's make that permanent. No, people will evolve. I told you, when I was 3 years old, I see my dad peeing. So I try and pee and I pee all over myself. And my mom's like, what the hell are you doing? About to whoop my butt. And I go, I'm peeing like daddy. She's like, why? I go, because I'm going to grow up to be like daddy. I need to start practicing. She's like, no, you're going to grow up to be like mommy. And I was horrified by that. And then my big sister comes in the room. Yeah, and you're going to have boobies and you're going to bleed every month. And I was like, I don't want that. I want to be like daddy. Daddy doesn't have boobies. Daddy doesn't I didn't want anything to do with that. I was 3 years old. But I was told, this is who you are. Right? And there's going to be some advantages to that. And thank God, I wasn't, at a time where somebody would try to permanently alter that for me. Thank God I'm a woman. I'm really happy with that. I was able to have babies. And yeah, do I like Pete standing up? Yes, I do. Do I like sports? Do I, can't stand wearing dresses and heels? Yes, but that doesn't mean I'm not a biological woman. Do I love men? Yes. That's my choice to be heterosexual. So I think schools need to maybe eventually just say, look, okay, we're not here to, introduce our opinions. We're here to teach kids and get them ready for, their academic life. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So all eyes are still on the Iran war. It's interesting how some of the media call it Trump's Iran war. It's actually, they're saying this was just pulled out of his retroperitoneum, and I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about that in a second. But Donald Trump has threatened a new major escalation. On Thursday, told Axios that he is weighing whether to launch a massive attack on the Islamic Republic that would be bigger than ever before. And this goes as we are in, I believe, the 13th night of military strikes, as Iran has completely gone back on anything the Memorandum of Understanding had decided on or any previous agreements. Here's a little bit of what Trump had to say on Iran.
We've knocked out their Navy, their Air Force, all of their radar, most of their capability in terms of manufacturing. Their drones are down 84%. Their missiles are down 91%. And I had a newspaper say, they're in stronger position today than they were 4 months ago. No, that's not the truth. That's not right. I can't believe they're even allowed to say it. New York Times said they're in stronger position today. They have no military. They have no Navy. They had 159 ships. Everyone's at the bottom of the sea. They had 212 airplanes. Everyone is gone. They have no radar. They have no anti-aircraft. They have no nothing other than they're mean and they're smart and they still have some capability. But 4 months ago, trust me, they were much stronger, okay? I want to give you the non-fake news.
So, I believe that did happen. I do believe that what America has done under Trump has really clipped and de-winged and defanged Iran, but the conflict continues to go, right? As he even said, here we are 4 months into it. Now, when he gets challenged by reporters on it, he answers very logically. Look, I mean, if you look at all these other wars that we were in with Afghanistan or with Persian Gulf or with Vietnam, there were many more casualties. It went on longer. It went on. What we're doing actually can affect us even more than why we entered the Vietnam War or why we entered the Afghanistan War. I have never liked the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. I have always known that Iran, having friends who escaped Iran and escaped to come to America, and knowing the destruction and the continual threats that they give America and the U.S., something had to be done. But you're going to, as we go into the midterms and as this goes on longer, this wasn't necessary. Trump didn't need to do this. This is a waste. We have lost American lives, and that is crushing, absolutely crushing. But nobody's bringing up the loss of lives, that Iran took part in. Americans who died in the Hamas attack, Americans who died on bases because of their attacks, their role helping Russia in the Ukraine war. Yeah, nobody's bringing that up. They're just looking at what Trump did. And I've been watching this. I watched this Netflix documentary on Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Roosevelt, was integral in making the U.S. a world power. And one such thing he did was get us the Panama Canal. And to get us the Panama Canal, they had to get involved in an area that was nowhere near America. They had to get involved with Panama's call for independence from Colombia. And after multiple failed attempts of Panama trying to, free themselves from Colombia, Teddy Roosevelt at the time thought if we help Panama to a degree, then Panama would let us do the Panama Canal. Because I believe in a previous administration, it just failed. They weren't able to do it because of all the hostilities and everything going on. And so Teddy Roosevelt had to make a very unpopular decision, to the government and to the Americans to get involved in something. But that ended up being probably one of the greatest things to help America, taking months off of transit time when things needed to come to America, not having to go around the Southern Hemisphere, being able to bridge the Eastern and the Pacific and the Atlantic. It was huge. And I mean, I'm not equating what's going on with Iran to the Panama Canal. But just like the Spanish-American War, just like Teddy Roosevelt had to make some tough decisions. And when people didn't really see how it would affect America, and then they end up, well, wait a second, now America has Guam and access to the Philippines and Puerto Rico. And, we take things for granted, but it's because it took a leader that had to say, this is something that needs to get done. And so many people, even Democrats and Republicans alike, looked at what was going on with Iran as, see, people don't really fear North Korea. They think Kim Jong-un, we don't like that he has nuclear capability, but we think, we're not as stressed about that. But Iran has been a thorn in our side and in many Middle Eastern countrysides. Now, people go, gosh, how did the Abraham Accords happen? How did, why would any, country decide to work with Trump and Israel? Well, because they're getting smart. When you have non-terrorist leaders and they're like, we can really thrive. We can do really, really well, and peace benefits us. I know somebody's going to get mad that we're recognizing Israel, and Israel needs to be off the face of the earth, they say. But honestly, I'm making this country thrive. And you see the UAE, you see Saudi Arabia. Lebanon wants to work with Israel. All these countries do, but they don't want Hamas. They don't want Hezbollah. They don't want Iran's funding of terror cells. They know that terror and these militias are bad news. Eventually, somebody has to do something in the Democratic Republic of Congo because you have these militias messing with the efforts to stop Ebola. Ebola, this is one of the fastest outbreaks we've seen. It's not the biggest outbreak of Ebola. That was back in 2014. But this is sadly moving faster than that one. And one of the issues they're having is people are afraid to come to the city. People are afraid to go to the medical centers. And these medical centers are getting attacked by militias. That's a problem. And so terrorism can really devastate us globally. And if Ebola comes here because of the terrorist acts of some of these militias in the Democratic Republic of Congo, not that the government can't control, all of a sudden you're going to hear us go, well, we need to do something. And when people say, well, Iran wasn't an issue, all of a sudden out of the blue, Trump decides to go after Iran. No. October 7th was not out of the blue. That was not October 7th was an example of Iran-funded terrorism. That was frightening, devastating, and affected Americans. If Israel goes, the Middle East could implode in terms of security, in terms of keeping things in check, in terms of stopping terrorism. When Trump's like, well, everybody be patient. Yes, in the beginning, he shouldn't have said this is all going to be over in a week. He was very overly optimistic, and he probably shouldn't have said that. But he wanted people off his case, so he said, this is going to be fast. Everybody just leave me alone. It's going to be fast. This could go on for months. But when people ask if the Navy is devastated, if demolished, and what's going on? Well, these are people underground. It's a huge country, and they've had a multiple century network that they've built. So it's going to take time. But I hope Trump gets the job done. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out. And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So when everybody and their mother was starting to go on Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro or Zepbound, these weight loss drugs or their compound, a few were calling in saying, what do I do about my hair? And I go, you're losing your hair, aren't you? They go, yeah. Well, is your weight loss rapid or is it methodical? Are you eating a balanced diet and still getting your nutrition, or are you skipping meals? Well, if you're not eating regularly and you're not getting your nutrition in and you're dropping 50 pounds in a matter of weeks, you're going to lose your hair. That's just comes with the territory. Well, now there's a study talking about it. So now it's finally making headlines. Nobody listens when I say it, but at least finally somebody's talking about it. So there was a study of 50,000 people, and it showed some pretty significant hair loss. The good news is it doesn't look like it's permanent. Usually won't be permanent. It's not like a scarring alopecia. This is where you could still, regrow your hair if you start eating right or normalizing your weight as opposed to yo-yoing and dropping it abruptly. But the experts use data to compare rates of alopecia hair loss in adults using these GLP-1s to manage diabetes with those on other drugs. And they looked at a pretty significant link. And they said for the study, they looked at people with diabetes, not just those doing weight loss. And in total, 12,004 patients were using GLPs compared to 15,200 using SGLT2 inhibitors, which is a different class of diabetes medication. And then a further 12,000 were compared with 11,233 using the DPP4 inhibitor users. Again, another class of medicine that we use for diabetes. And after adjusting for factors that can influence the results like age and weight, they found that those taking the GLP-1 drugs for diabetes were associated with a 37% higher risk of hair loss than those using the SGLT2 inhibitors. And compared to those using the DPP4 inhibitors for diabetes, there was almost a 70% increased risk of hair loss. They said further analysis suggests the link related to non-scarring alopecia. This comes from the British Medical Journal. Researchers came from the University of Pennsylvania in the U.S., published this, and it's a good study to look at. Now, somebody's going to say, well, wait a second. If I'm losing the hair, is that dangerous? So losing hair temporarily with weight loss in and of itself directly, that's not going to hurt you. But the process starts to make me suspicious. Okay. Losing hair, whenever I have a patient that doesn't necessarily have the genetic hair loss, when they lose hair prematurely, I have to think there's something going on. I had a new patient coming in saying, I want a lotion, I want minoxidil, I want something to get my hair back. And I go, well, let me do some labs. No, I just want something for the top of my hair. And I go, but if I could figure out why you're losing your hair, that's going to work faster than the topicals. Well, I'm afraid of needles. I don't want to do needles. You know how many times people told me that they don't want to do needles? And then now everybody's doing needles with the Ozempic. I thought people who told me that they wouldn't get a blood test done. I'm like, aren't you injecting yourself a few times a week now? Microdosing? Yeah, that's a different needle. Yeah, it is. But you were like acting like, oh my gosh, no needles whatsoever. And you're like, come on, man. And so this lady who was losing her hair, when I finally convinced her to do her blood, she had severe diabetes and low thyroid. So you could pour bottles of product onto your scalp if nobody's dealing with the underlying issue. And why is hair loss? Why would you be losing hair? Well, because if your body's not healthy, then you're not going to function well. Let me see here. With alopecia and hair loss, there was a study that came out looking at, early baldness and how that could be a sign of heart disease. It really depends. Talk to your medical provider. If you come from a family where, men start to lose their hair in their 20s genetically, all right, and if there's no heart disease, that's great. But if everybody has hair and all of a sudden you're losing hair, again, it could be a process where your blood flow isn't good. And if your blood flow isn't good to those hair follicles, that could also suggest the blood flow isn't good to the heart. So what causes baldness? So you got the follicles that grow the hair. And hair is made in follicles within the skin. And I guess it grows for about 3 years until it sheds and the new hair grows. Alopecia is the term for hair loss. There's different types of alopecia. So it occurs when your hair follicles shrink, get smaller and either thinner hairs grow, or the hair lasts for a shorter period of time, not the full 3 years, shorter lengths, or the hair just stops growing. Genetics play a huge factor. Now, everybody says that it's based on your mom. If your mom's side balds, then you're going to bald. But if your dad's side does that, that's not entirely true. Much of the baldness genes falls on the X, but men still have the XY chromosome. And so if you, let's say you are XY and your dad has baldness, but your mom doesn't. Okay, or maybe your mom does, but you can't see it. You have XY, you have a daughter with your mom, with your partner. You're giving that X gene. That X gene then goes to that baby, and the baby now has, your X, and then if she later, has a boy, either giving the X or giving, the other X, but to make the child, she's going to give one of the X's, and that boy could have the X from her and the Y from the dad, or the other X. You can still pass the genes. So even if there's baldness on the father's side, there's still a way. But yeah, it does seem to follow an X chromosome, but you could still get an X chromosome from the father. See that? See? So sex hormones, androgens can cause male pattern baldness. We know medications can cause baldness, like anabolic steroids. If you have low thyroid, if you have diabetes, and so going back to these GLP-1 drugs, my issue with seeing the hair loss is I don't want to just ignore the fact that if somebody's hair loss and hair cycle is where they're noticing it, that's severe. I mean, I brush my hair, I wash my hair, and there's hair on my brush or in the bottom of the shower. It happens. Okay. You lose how many, 100 plus hairs a day? You lose hair. Hair falls out. Again, you got that 3-year cycle. Hair might break, hair comes off. That happens. But for you to notice it and go, gosh, I'm really getting light, then that suggests it's a lot. And then why so abrupt? The only time I ever lost hair and I noticed thinning was when I went through menopause. I went through menopause early. I remember talking to my buddy about it. I'm like, this is weird. And I used the minoxidil. I used lotions. I used Nioxin, things like that. And once my hormones normalized, I was like, okay, this is weird because I'm seeing it. And I didn't feel healthy when my hormones were off. Once everything stabilized, your body wants stability. So if you're going to lose weight, but you don't want to lose your hair, don't be trying to lose 50 pounds in 4 weeks. That's not healthy. Your body doesn't like that. Your body likes methodical. Slow and steady wins a race. It wants to readjust. And don't be skipping meals. You got to keep your nutrition up. Got to get those vitamins in. Because if your body doesn't get it, skipping meals does not help your body. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.